Hello there. My name is Simon Farbrother, and I'm the city manager for a community of Spruce Grove in Canada. Um, I've had the pleasure to work with Peter R. over many years due to my past involvement with ICMA as the former president of ICMA and also as the former city manager of Edmonton. The last few weeks have obviously been very different for all of us as we have dealt with COVID-19. And Peter had asked me to share some observations and comments around things happening in Canada and the approach to the virus and the economic fallout associated with that. What I can tell you is that in many respects there's been a pretty rational response to the virus, and the reason for that is probably lessons learned from other communities and other countries around the world around restricting travel and having some fairly stringent regulations in terms of people re-entering Canada. Obviously, Canada is a low population country in relation to its size. And so the ability to implement social distancing and to allow people to generally live their lives without having to formally connect directly to people is probably a little easier than in some of the higher density parts of the world. Having said that, all the communities here have had to work pretty hard to get it into people's heads that social distancing is actually important. So bars, restaurants have been closed, gatherings of any significant number have been closed, but then you would find people congregating in parks and playgrounds and not translating the knowledge or the awareness that social distancing happens 24 hours a day and not just at work or when you go into the grocery store. We've been reasonably successful in moving that dial, and so people are much more aware of the way that the virus works, the way that it transmits, and there has been some reasonably a good response in that regard by the public. Sorry. Cases in Canada continue to rise, and so there is continued awareness of the threat. I don't think Canadians in general understand that ultimately what Canada does is going to be significantly influenced by what the rest of the world does, and especially the US, because of flows of goods and services and inevitably people. I'm not sure that piece has sunk in yet, but in general terms, because Canada is a reasonably developed country, so far our health systems, our police systems, and our municipal systems have essentially been able to function with little disruption. Where the impact is probably going to be more significant is the severe economic impact on local businesses, and the fact that their cash flow situations are going to become very difficult. And so now we're moving into the realm of really mitigating, a financial disaster as opposed to necessarily a virus disaster, or in a sense, we're actually now dealing with both. And that's going to need to lead to some fairly radical decisions in terms of where money is spent and where money is deferred in terms of collections. People are going to want deferrals on utility bills, on tax bills. The revenue that's coming into the municipalities is obviously going to go down significantly with the closure of rec facilities, libraries, etc., and then the associated knock-on effect as it relates to employment contracts and labour. So suffice to say, this is a very complex issue. It requires consistent strategic discussion. and figuring out sort of the next step. For us, good communication, clarity of purpose, keeping council informed, keeping our public informed, um, ensuring that we make rational and logical as opposed to emotive decisions. All of those, I think, have helped us as we've continued to work through this process. And at the moment, we really don't know what will ultimately happen. But certainly in the Canadian context, anyway, we've managed to avoid, the massive escalation in cases that have been experienced in some parts of the world. And we are lucky enough that we are not in certain parts of the world where existing healthcare systems, enforcement systems, governance systems may be less equipped to deal with the problem. It's going to be interesting what the next few weeks play out. There will be some real lessons learned. What I will say in concluding, it's just continued to reinforce the value in terms of the value that people that are invested in working for the public profession bring to the table, the leadership they bring to the table, and the commitment they bring to the table in helping citizens deal with very, very difficult situations. And my hats go off to all our staff and provincial employees, etc., that are trying to do the right thing for our citizens. Good luck with your conference. I hope you have some good lessons learned, and this little contribution is of value to you. All the best. Bye.